Hi everyone, I'm Alex Lee with Vine Life Farms. I'm glad to be back with y'all. I've missed out, I know, probably a good bit and missed out on a lot of videos, but that's alright. I'm back now, and we're going to start off pretty strong and get some videos posted for y'all. But today it's a bit of a blistery day out. It's supposed to be warming up. We're here in North Alabama, and in Zone 8A, actually. They moved us up in the past couple years. We were in 7B, but they moved us up, so we're right on that line. But it's right now, it's February 14th, Happy Valentine's Day. And it's a little cool, but we've got a little bit of a warm snap that has moved through, and it's long about 60 degrees out right now, so it's still a little cool, but and a little bit windy. But today we're going to focus on rose pruning. Right now is the great time to prune your roses and really do much of any pruning on your shrubs and woody plants, shrubs and trees. And so this is, I'm not exactly sure what cultivar of rose this is. This is a fairly new rose, probably about 2 or 3 years old. It's got some really great growth on it. But we're just going to sort of show you how I prune, how I've learned to prune over the past couple years, how I've actually watched YouTube videos on how to prune, and which you're absolutely 100%. YouTube is great to learn how to do it. Just make sure they're reliable sources on what you're looking at. But don't be afraid. Don't be fearful about pruning your roses. At this time, you know, the sap and everything has gone into the roots. It's sort of in its little dormant stage right now until they get some warmer weather in, till spring arrives and it starts to bud back out and send out new growth. So now is the perfect time to be pruning on your roses. Here's just a few things that I'm going to be using today, is some gloves, of course. Roses are super prickly, as you can see on that rose. These will probably not stop those thorns from coming through and hitting my hands, but it'll at least help a little bit. We've also got some alcohol here, some rubbing alcohol, just to use on my pruners here, just to make sure to clean them up real good. So when you're going from plant to plant, you want to make sure that you're using this alcohol just to clean and sanitize everything. There's a lot of fungal pathogens and disease that go around. If I can get it to work here. It's going to act up a little bit. There we go. Just sort of spray it off real good. You can wipe it off if you needed to, and just make sure you've got a really good pair of pruners when you're doing this. Good and sharp is always great to make a good clean cut through the stem of the plant. So once you've got your gloves on and you got your pruners, we're going to discard all of this. We're not, you know, roses and different things. You don't want to sort of save it or compost some of this, just because roses are in the Rosaceae family, and everything in the Rosaceae family, there's a lot of different fruits and different shrubs in that family. But they are super prone to diseases and fungal pathogens and things. So we want to make sure to completely discard of this. That way there is none that is staying from last year and just going to be able to run our roses next year. A lot of black spot that happens on these roses, rosette virus, there's all kinds of things. So when you're pruning, you want to make sure to get all of that up. A lot of people's like, oh, well, we'll just leave it on the ground and leave it for mulch. No. These fungal pathogens live in that debris, and they're gonna overwinter, and so they're gonna come back next year and be on your roses, and you're gonna have to treat them with a fungicide and all those things. So we want to reduce that as much as we can. Powdery mildew the same way. So we want to watch that and keep an eye on that. So with roses, just a few tips. It's a good thing to at least cut off 1/3 of the rose. Roses bloom on new growth, so don't be afraid to cut on them. So in here we've got, you know, this is a fairly new shrub, probably 3 years old or so, I would say. And we've already, if you don't mind to come on in here just a little bit, we've already got some new growth sort of popping up on these ends. That's good. It's warming up. It's getting time to prune. So we know the plant is good and healthy. You know, it might not look like it right now, but give it a few months and spring will come around and it'll pop back out. Don't worry about these leaves. They're going to pop out new leaves like this is doing already when it gets warmer. So if you take those off, it's not going to hurt anything. Now you can almost cut them all the way back to the ground. I've seen so many gardeners do that, and it works every year for them. That's going to help sometimes with getting those fungal pathogens off of there completely. And you're not going to have to worry about it. But for today's purpose, I'm only going to cut maybe 2/3 of the plant. I might cut off 1/3. I'm not for sure. Depends on when I get in there and start cutting. I might go, okay, let's take it on back some more. But don't be afraid. Now is the perfect time to do it. And you're not going to hurt the plant by doing this. And you're not going to sacrifice blooms because it blooms on new growth. So let's go ahead and get started. We've cleaned our pruners here. We've got our gloves on. And you want to come in here. There's two things I want to look for. Diseased canes. These are canes, right? The stems. Diseased canes and damaged canes. I want to take those out first. So I'm looking at the plant. You know, inspecting it, I don't see a whole lot of diseased in here. It's fairly new rows, so I'm not seeing a whole lot of that going on. But I want to point out any of those canes that are rubbing against other canes inside of here, you want to make sure that you're removing those. So since we don't have any disease or damage, we go straight into removing some that's sort of in the way. You know, we're going to go back here. This one was rubbing. That one's rubbing. Because when they're rubbing, they're, you know, hitting on that other stem of some of the healthy stuff. And that could cause a wound, and the pathogens get into that wound. Here's actually a... if you don't mind to get in here just a little bit, I'm going to get him to show you. Here is some... and I know, don't pardon our mulch. We're going to get mulch in too here soon, some pine straw back in. But here is a diseased or damaged just growth there. So we want to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and just remove that completely there. That's a good example there. Some of these in here, it's just growing off to the side in the middle. You want to make sure to remove those out. Okay, so here is a good example. Seeing a little bit of, see that notch there? There's just a lot going in there, and that is the perfect breeding ground for pathogens. So I'm going to go ahead and completely cut that out. We're trying to reduce that because roses, the best way to combat it, of course, those different pests, is to basically you want to get rid of all of that because it's just a breeding ground for it. But the best way to combat a lot of this is using fungicides. But if you don't want to use that, like I don't want to use fungicides all the time unless I completely have to, unless they're taking over my plants. I'll get resistance cultivars, and that is the best way to combat some of these pathogens. All right, so we got most of the disease and damage out of there, and we're going to go ahead and take it back a good bit. So don't be afraid. You know, come in here and, you know, these are super prickly. So be careful. Take that out. Some of these weird tall canes, you know, a lot of this growth here, see, it's all red, it's super healthy. It can be green, green or red. These roses are super healthy, but this was almost all of last year's growth, so this one is going crazy. That's going to be all right. If I can even cut through them, this is tough, but it's crazy that this was all new growth. I may not even be able to cut them with this. Hang on, let me go get the big loppers. All right, so I've got my big loppers now. We're gonna be able to take care of this. And I've already sprayed them down just to make sure. Some of those bigger ones are just too big for me and my little pruners here. All right, let's grab our little small pruners now. Head back in here. Again, you don't want to leave a lot of your, your clippings there on the ground. All right, we're getting it looking a little bit better here. And you can nitpick on these all day long. You could just spend out here just nitpicking, and that's not what I like to do. I just like to do what I need to do and leave it alone, because it's going to be fine. It's going to come back out in the spring. It's going to be healthy. It's going to send out new growth. But this is a young plant, and I've done a really harsh prune on it its first year. A lot of people say don't do that. I did it because I wanted it to get more growth on it. I wanted to see what it was going to do right here in this spot. We're for the most part full sun right here. And let's see. So yeah, we're for the most part full sun right here. And the more sun you give some of these roses, the more they're going to perform. And so unless you're in like a desert climate, that can be really rough on them. But here in the south, we get plenty of rain, and so there's not much of a worry with that. But sometimes during the summer months, it'll get some shade here. So I was trying to see how it was going to perform. It's performing beautifully. It bloomed like crazy last year. Bloomed pretty much, past the frost. It just went crazy. But I love it. I love this rose. My mom loves it too. So that's why I'm trying to take real good care of it. Okay, I'm probably about to stop. Here's a good example. This one is touching the ground in here, right here. And so I'm just going to completely take that back. That's going to warn her. That's going to, breed disease there. And we don't want that. We don't want that going on. So remember, from one plant to another, if you're pruning on one plant and you go to another, clean your pruners. That's going to save any sort of disease that might be on it that you can't see. You want to clean those pruners off. So let me clean these back off too, just to make sure we're doing good. If anybody's ever heard of rosette virus, it was real bad in the 90s. In early 2000s, because a lot of these landscapers was coming through and pruning everyone's roses, and that's when the disease started. Was about that time. It had been around, but these landscapers was coming through, and it was spreading like crazy because they wasn't cleaning their pruners, and they was going from one house to another pruning those roses, and that's how the disease spread. They're on top of it now and making sure they're cleaning things now, and so rosette virus is not near as bad of a disease as it was, because we're staying on top of it. But it just shows how much disease attacks the rose family. Don't be concerned with that. Just make sure you're cleaning your pruners properly with some alcohol or whatever you've got, keeping them sharp. So that's going to be about it for a rose video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And I'll try to get those answers out to you as quick as I can. But yes, happy pruning, and let those roses get a good renewal prune for the next year. Y'all have a good day.